Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. I am Allen Werner, author of the epic fantasy series, The Crystal Crux. Today, we are going to continue reading from the first book in the series, Betrayal. We are reading a flashback. This is the year 1170, which is 28 years before the actual story begins. We have established our first character, Melior Fabro. Melior is the wife of the Lord Commander of Parthenope, Tancred Fabro. Her son sent her to Melfi on holiday, but she decided to secretly return early and surprise her husband. Few people know that she is back. We will begin at the bottom of page 2. This is the second edition of Betrayal, in case you're reading along. A yawn caught Melior by surprise. She shook herself to stay alert and upright. Drifting back into the shadows behind the desk, she removed the linen wrap covering her head. Blonde tresses fell to her shoulders. The number of gray hairs were multiplying, but she didn't care. She earned them, and her husband still called her beautiful, and she knew she was. Feeling rather flirty, Melior embraced a bold notion. She slid over to her husband's armoire and let the tan gown fall off her shoulders. Standing naked, her wrinkled skin loose on her bones, Melior opened the armoire and fumbled through her husband's clothing. She retrieved his favorite dress shirt for summer nights, a long-sleeved, gold-embroidered, black silken tunic that went down just below his waist when he wore it. She was shorter than Tancred, so when she put the shirt on, the hem extended down below her knees. Melior smiled indulgently. She bent her knees and rubbed her thighs together. She entertained some impure thoughts that used to be more frequent. She sniffed the sleeves while rubbing the silk against her cheek. Tancred's odor was there, and she missed him. Discordant chatter swelled on the other side of the closed door, leading out to the hall. Melior knew it must be Tancred approaching. With all the excitement of a dizzy young girl, she bounced over to the high-backed chair and sat her narrow hips on the red velvet cushion. Legs crossed, she gripped the armrest, her fingers digging into the dragon eyes. This was going to be exciting. They were going to make love. They were going to make love right here in his study. She couldn't wait to feel his arms around her. The dark clouds began to scatter just as the door to the office cracked open, bringing with it a narrow band of light. Moonbeams spilled bright over the pillared rails, washing silently across the balcony stones, passing calmly through the open glass doors and into the study. The high-backed chair where Melior sat was fully illuminated, all lit up. She appeared angelic in his black tunic. And then a strange buzzing sound disturbed the room. Melior heard it coming. Her blue eyes barely caught sight of the strange bird. It had a silver-tipped nose and fluttering red feathers. Its song turned to a shrill as it passed over the balcony and in through the doors with the approaching light. It came straight for her. It struck her hard, fast, and true, straight through the chest. She couldn't make a sound. It entered near her heart. It was like taking a punch to the lungs. All her breath left instantly. She stared over the distant walls, seeking the ocean. She imagined it was tranquil blue. Her injured spirit was being drawn towards the waves, towards the mists, towards her parents. There wasn't an iris in the room, but she could still smell them, the iris and the salty sea. So we just killed off the only character we know about. Weary of work, Tancred Fabro shut the door to his study, leaving the world and its problems behind him. Wearing a heavy brown robe, strangely inappropriate for such smothering summer heat, he sweated his way to the desk. He placed a bag of work upon it, careful not to upset a single knick-knack. He was not so gentle with the piles of paperwork. He knocked some leaflets to the floor. As Tancred hunched over with creaking knees to retrieve the fallen papers, he heard a woman sigh. He glanced sideways towards the patio as a tired hand slipped off the left armrest of his high-backed chair. He rose slowly, neatly placing the papers back on the desk. Tentatively, he moved towards the chair. "Melior?" he whispered, and grinned with anticipation. "Is that you, my love?" Did you return from Melfi early? The moon had the room glowing bright as day. Tancred rounded the chair. Melior was sitting on the throne, her head slumped to the left, the feathers of an arrow shaft buried deep in her chest. His brown eyes grew wider as he spotted the blood oozing down her chest, staining his favorite shirt. Tancred started shaking. He couldn't utter a word or lift his hands to touch her. He felt dizzy and lightheaded. A curious tightness burned deep inside his chest. The pain continued to metabolize until it radiated through every limb, pounding feverishly inside his brain. Within seconds, the sting in his chest overwhelmed his whole body, first the left side, and then the right side. Tancred's old heart burst, and he fell down dead at his wife's feet. Melior Fabro was not dead yet. She was still conscious when her husband collapsed in a lifeless heap before her. She could do nothing for him. She was weak and exhausted. Currents of excruciating pain radiated throughout her entire body. The assassin's arrow had her thin body pinned to the back of the chair. She could not move. She couldn't lift her hands or unclench the fingers of the right from the dragon's eyes. Her dry lips produced no sound. Please, Lord, she prayed in silence, let me touch my husband one last time. Trembling, Melior floated from her mortal coil, her consciousness engulfed by cool seawater, the eternal saltiness of time welcoming her into its peaceful calm. Was it her imagination, or was it the truth? She couldn't decide, but it was curious all the same. In the heavens, the variable winds changed direction. The storm clouds returned. They rolled over Parthenope as if in mourning, veiling the moon, releasing a million tears. Tancred Fabro's study disappeared in the darkness. So we begin the book with an attempted assassination that leads to the death of the leader of Parthenope and his wife. On our next podcast, we will read from chapter 2 of this book, Betrayal. For now, I want to remind everybody that the last book in the series, Beautiful, is going to be released tomorrow on Saturday, November 18th, 2023. You can get the Kindle version right now on pre-sale, and it'll download automatically on Saturday. Or you can order the paperback or the hardcover starting Saturday. There's a brief synopsis at the beginning of the book, Beautiful, that kind of catches you up on all the characters and where they are and what's happening. So it should be an easy transition if you start reading from there. So I encourage people to go ahead and pick that book up if you get a chance and read it over the Thanksgiving holiday. If you also get a chance, please leave a review for self-published authors dealing with all the books that are put out there every day from the big publishing houses. It's hard to advertise and keep up with the advertisements, so we're relying on you, on the readers, to write reviews and let people know that the books are actually out there. So until next time, keep reading, stay inspired. Goodbye.